So before Dubai became the whole hype, the glamour, the skyscrapers, my grandfather came on a ship, started off with a laundry, made enough money, handed over the business to his brother, and then with that money, he started and built brick by brick with his 6 sons, Rasasi Perfumes. So the first store opened in Dera in about 1979, March 10.
Wow.
Yeah, that would be a date to remember, right?
Long back, yeah.
So the first store opens. The store was done very uniquely. For that time, it had mirrors everywhere. So it was a very unique store. The merchandising was done differently, and it stood out. So in Arabic, or in the Arabs, there was a talk that people were saying basically, Mahal Jadid. That means new store. And basically, that's what got the hype, the word of mouth. That resulted in a phone call from someone from the royal family. And that was within the first year. And from there on, it's been a never-ending growth, alhamdulillah.
Oh, wow. You know, I remember the first Rasasi perfume or a deodorant that I used was Rasasi Blue while growing up, and it was expensive for me at that point of time. But I used it, and I used it over a number of years. So when and where did actually Rasasi became Rasasi, the brand that we know today?
So it started off with Blue Lady and Blue for Men.
Yeah.
And that's what really made the success for us. Going for the color blue and so loud in a perfume bottle was not something seen before. So the packaging is what really spoke to people. And blue was the branding color that really made Rasasi, that to this day we still use, even in our bags. And that's the product that really kind of got the news out. Export went crazy with it. And everybody was actually initially saying, if you don't launch a blue bottle, what's the shape and whatnot? You don't need to do all this. You're going to be failing on it. But my grandfather took a bet, took a risk, and it paid off. It paid off so well that we ended up launching deodorants for the markets which were not able to afford perfumes at that time and age. But now, to this day and age, it's still selling containers to containers.
Yeah, that was, I think, back in 2000s when I'm talking about the Rasasi Blue Men. So when did this happen? Okay, I got to use it in the year, say, for example, 2002, 2003, somewhere around that. But when did this Rasasi boom really happen with Blue?
I would say it was around the 80s.
Okay.
It was around the 80s when it really shot up with the export market. But initially in the first year itself, within the region, because of the oils, the bakhur, that's what really spoke at that time to the Arabs. And within the Arab community, that's what really set the foundation for us. And from there, building on and growing internationally was a never-ending story from there.
So when did you start exporting Rasasi?
About 82, 83.
Okay. And since then, how many countries does it go to now?
So now we export to about 95 countries.
Wow.
Yeah.
How many stores do you have in the UAE itself?
In the UAE, we have about 80 stores, but across the Gulf, we have 180 retail outlets with about 15 more in the pipeline.
Wow, that's absolutely amazing. So I don't understand. I've heard that, you guys have branched out to different perfume divisions also. You run House of Noya, if I'm not wrong, right?
Correct.
So what was the need of actually branching out if Rasasi was doing so well?
So, all's well in a limited number of people, right? But when there are too many captains on a ship, the ship's not going anywhere.
Okay.
So it came to a point where now grandfather had passed away. The 6 brothers are running the brand business. And that's the main family business. So what we did is basically we separated the factory, kept that as a separate business unit, made it part of the group, and kept the Rasasi brand as a separate thing as well. And then each brother had children, right? So each child was basically invested on to go and create a brand. The reason of doing this was because a lot of our competitors were actually ex-employees. And now they have multi-million-dollar businesses, right? So that's amazing. But it also shows that somewhere or the other, yes, the market is growing, but we're also losing market share. So rather than losing that market share, why not empower those brands from within the organization? And what better than using your own family members if it's a family business, right? So that was one of the reasons. But obviously, we didn't want to launch the exact same thing as a Rasasi because you don't want to compete against your own, right? So what we did is each one decided to use a different price point, different sort of storytelling aspect. So, for example, my cousin went completely mass. I went high end with House of Noya, niche per se. My brother went more mid market, where that gap was specifically something Rasasi had left. So this is how we sort of branched out, and that was one of the reasons.
Well, that's a very honest answer. I'll come to House of Noya a little later. But tell me, especially in Dubai, I've noticed that perfumes matter a lot. Why do you think is that?
Perfume is not just part of a routine. It's spiritual. It has a lot of meaning because it's part of the culture. If you see oud as well, right? When somebody is coming to your house, the idea is that you'll burn bukhur or oud before they come or when they're there. So that's part of a whole ritual. Even in Eid, for example, in the region, you'd smell bukhur and oud and even the Arabic perfumes on everybody. So that really is a whole tradition and cultural thing. So that's why it plays a really important part here.
And how many times does it happen to you that you go out and people ask you, are you wearing a Rasasi or not?
So they don't specifically ask Rasasi because we've only just started to come out as a family that we are behind the brand. For a very long period of time, a lot of people used to think that the brand is owned by, in Kuwait, they used to think it's a Kuwaiti family owning it. In Oman, they used to think it's an Omani family. In Saudi, it was the same. They thought it was a Saudi family. And in the UAE as well, they used to think it's an Emirati family. So that was the differentiation. But yes, that's why now that we're coming out, people are starting to understand who we are. But I do get complimented on the perfume, and that's usually, the one that gives me confidence. Okay, this is a good fragrance.
That's actually a compliment that wherever you are selling, people are thinking that it's the brand from that particular place. That's kind of a compliment. So do you have this in mind when you're creating a perfume, say, for example? Do you have this in mind that we are creating this for a particular market?
Yes. So initially, that was not the case. Because the market trends back then were not like that. But what we did do back then was we segregated between two different divisions, Oriental and French. French was for exports, Oriental was only for the Arabic region or the Gulf and for our retail stores. But the trend has shifted. TikTok, social media, and all these things have changed everything. Why? Because Arabic brands are now perceived in the West as someone who gives you affordable fragrances at a very high quality that is value for money compared to, let's say, the Western brands, And that sort of boost that has happened on TikTok has really, removed that Oriental French sort of differentiation. And now even Middle Eastern brands would be launching very fresh Western fragrances.
Okay. Again, something that we were talking about. What are you wearing today? Which perfume are you wearing today? Is it a Rasasi?
No, it is not a Rasasi.
Okay.
But it is something I've been testing. Something that has been trending these days as a drink. I don't want to disclose which drink it is, but it's a drink that has been trending recently quite a lot. I wanted to play around the notes for that and wanted to create a fragrance around that.
Okay.
So working on that.
Let me guess it. Matcha?
Yes.
You need to give me points on that. Ajay, tell me, for example, for me, if Dubai had a smell, I tell you, the first time I came down, I could smell shawarma in the air. Dubai was shawarma. Everywhere you go, especially in Bar Dubai, especially in Old Dubai, you feel the smell of shawarma in the air. You feel the smell of karak in the air. So what is your smell that defines Dubai for you?
So I definitely say oud. That's a must. But obviously a fragrance is made up of multiple different ingredients, right? So you can't just say Dubai smells like oud. It has oud, but it has this sort of leather aspect, but more of a, that saddle that you would put on a horse or a camel, that leather, that because of the heat, that smell that you get. Sometimes when you walk around the spice market in there or somewhere around that, you'd smell that.
Yeah.
And then there are the spices as well. So when you mention karak as well, karak has spices like cinnamon and all these things. So I feel like spices, leather, and oud. This is what defines Dubai for me.
So have you created a perfume using all these things?
Yes, actually. But I ended up giving it to my brother for his brand. It was called Bedouin.
Bedouin.
Yeah, so it was literally to represent, an old Arab man.
Okay, you talked about oud. Why is oud such a big buzz here in the UAE?
Again, it goes back to the aspect of being a religious cultural thing, and that it's become such like it's part of the whole tradition, right? I mean, their day starts off with using oud as well. They would burn it on their kandora or their abaya before they would go out, but then on top they would always spray their perfume. Some even add an attar oil to basically enhance the whole thing and kind of gel everything. That's basically how a perfume works as well. Top, middle, base. So what they're doing when they're applying the bukhur or the oud is applying the base note on the clothing. And then when you're applying attar or oil, that's like the heart that will stay the longest with you as well. But then you have the top note, which is basically another perfume in itself. So that's why when you go to malls and when you're walking around, the smell that you would really get, this is what it is. It's the blend of many different things. And I feel like that's why oud has played a part since many years. And because of that religious cultural aspect, it has now become a thing for a daily routine.
Frankly, I think the boom in the perfume industry has come through these social media channels or networks, whatever you want to call it. So, unfortunately, I haven't seen Rasasi or House of Noya or Azhar for that matter on socials a lot. Why is that?
So again, the idea was that we were never coming out front, or we stayed away, or let's just say the older generation also never believed in social media or the digital aspect of it. Funnily enough, actually, by the way, Rasasi had no online store presence for the past 2 years, 3 years. That only started recently.
Yeah.
It was initiated by someone who was handling the marketing department before me. And then I sort of took over the project as well. And touch wood, it's going very well. I'm very happy with how it's led. But that's something that the newer generation, I would say, has tried to bring. The digital presence, the digital aspect, the use of influencers. Rasasi, I would say, still has a presence on TikTok somewhat, because the whole Arabic perfume trend actually started because of Hawas. And that was in the US. And that's what really started this whole trend about Arabic perfumes. And there's a word they used, beast mode fragrances. That's what came out of the Hawas as well.
So we are talking about social media. There have been a lot of brands, smaller brands, who've boomed because of social media. How much competition or heat do you face from those smaller brands now that are doing really, really well? I have used those perfumes as well, recommended by social media, frankly.
100%. Nowadays, it's all what influencers, people are believing and listening. A case out of perfumery, more into skincare. So my wife's a doctor, and she was working in her medical studies time, interning at a dermatologist. Someone came in and basically said, I have this, the doctor recommended, But then she goes like, removes her phone, opens TikTok, be's like, no, this influencer recommended this to me through this video because I have the same condition. So prescribe me this. So we've come to a part in the world that, we believe influencers more than doctors.
Yeah.
That's
unfortunate though.
It is. But I mean, coming back to perfumery, it's the way you can buy a perfume without actually smelling it, because the way influencers can describe it, or the way influencers can get you hooked on it because of a viral video, right? That's what's really important. And the brands are really, it's giving us a lot of tough competition, but as a family business, it's still been on growth. Brands like House of Noya would struggle in this sort of manner. Why? Because the affordability aspect comes into play, because House of Noya is priced very high. But then where brands like Azhar comes into play, it becomes very easy for us to enter the market. Why? Because we have that whole social media platform to use, So we can go ahead and compete with people like Rasasi, if you ask me, That's how it's been. So
I'll address the elephant in the room. Let's talk about it. I've used this perfume called Latafa.
Okay,
Khamra specifically. Okay, I bought it without even smelling it.
Okay.
Because the hype around it was so much. So my particular question to you is, have you tried it?
yes.
And what do you think about that?
It's a good fragrance, but it is a dupe fragrance, right?
Okay.
And that's how they're advertising it as well.
So none of Rasasi perfumes are dupes?
No, we do, but we have more of inspirations. But when I say we don't have dupes, is that the packaging is our inspiration. The bottle is our ideology. It's our design. Fragrance inspiration, yes, we go out in the market, try to understand what works, what notes are working. I mean, every year there's easily 5,000 perfumes launching around the world. There's bound to be something smelling closer to something, right? And even if you mix 4 ingredients together, you can come out something similar, right? But there's slight differences that I would say that we usually try to go for. That's how we
So there are a
perceive
lot
ourselves.
of perfumes. We took one example. The other one is Armaf is doing really well.
Mm-hmm.
And that also comes through social media.
Correct.
Right? So once again, have you tried it? And what do you think about Club de Nuit, for example?
It's a good fragrance, very nice.
What
They
about
have
the
their
quality?
Their quality is very nice as well. It lasts long. Their packaging is unique. There you go. You know, so it doesn't look the exact same as someone else's
the OG,
idea, right? The original. So I respect that, honestly, and that's how it's a good way to go forward.
So how do you fight this competition that you're having from people who doesn't have a presence, physical presence, so to say? They don't have stores, right? Armaf might have, but I don't think I've seen any Latafa store. So how do you fight that competition as a brand?
Okay, so having a retail presence has always been a plus for us because it's gone as a marketing as well as actually getting sales out of it. For someone who's focused mostly on distribution, such as Latafa, it's more of the aspect of literally having a heavy marketing budget because you have to use these influencers. Now, for a brand like House of Noya, I mean, I have to think of it in different ways, right? When I think of House of Noya, when I think of Azhar, or when I think of Rasasi, I have to put myself in a different car, basically having a different mindset. And with House of Noya, the competition comes into play that, you know, I've not been able to have that sort of a huge budget in marketing. Why? Because House of Noya is high-end and niche. It won't move as much quantities. It's high price already, so quantity numbers are very low. So the marketing budget eventually, comparatively, would be low as well. So going out and having a heavy influencer budget is tough. So how do I segregate? I would usually end up going to more beauty, travel, yes, fragrance as well, but more those types of influencers, but focus more on the storytelling aspect. Why? Because there's a whole story behind it. For example, there's a fragrance in Noya that it took me 2 years to make. And there was a reason for that. I actually ended up going to visit that place. I ended up actually going to see how the ingredients are being mixed. I sat with the perfumer many times, you know, going through many mixing rounds. So I feel like that's what needs to be communicated to the consumer, that whole transparency process. But how do you tell that to a customer through an influencer video in 30 seconds? That's the challenge I currently face.
All right. So do you think these smaller brands are eating into your market share?
100%. I mean, in the end, it's one pool, and all these new brands coming in, a small percentage goes away. It happens. But overall, the industry itself is growing so much that it's really not affected us as such as well.
Okay. Chalo, ye to ho gayi business ki baat. Let's talk about it. There are a lot of videos that I've seen that, again, influencers or people, you know, who have perfume channels on social media, they're showing different ways of using perfumes. They are saying use 16 sprays. Some say use only 5 sprays. So how do you use your perfume? And as an expert, how would you suggest everyone should use their perfume?
So first things first, more is not always better. That's number one. So more sprays doesn't always mean better. It comes into a lot of aspects. First things first, your body, everybody's body is different. So for me, spraying 8 sprays might be like maybe you need 4 sprays. You know, it just depends. You need to find your right scent. And the best way to do that, or how I try to find my best scent, let's say on how to use one specific perfume, I'll try it in the morning. That's when your body is fresh in terms of all chemicals inside your body. And then I let it obviously go on throughout the day, and I'll see how it works. But the most important part is you spray on your pulse points. So here, and then you're here. But also people have this habit because of when they're using oils to rub. That's completely a big no-no because it completely wipes away your top note. So that's something that people should avoid doing as well. And that's how I feel that you would be able to find your right scent. And try to understand how many sprays is required for you to be it. For example, if you're going to the office, you can't pull up with an oud fragrance with 16 sprays because the guy beside you is definitely not going to enjoy working, right? So that's how you have to find the right balance.
All right. How many sprays do you yourself use?
Well, when I'm going to work, it's probably 6 to 8. But let's say when I'm going out and having a nice time, it will be from 2 to 3 different fragrances layered from different brands.
Okay.
But then overall would be about 20 sprays.
Wow.
Just when I'm going out, I just have this thing that, okay, now that a lot of people are into perfumes and they use a lot of branded, our brands as well, I just want to smell unique. So I kind of mix match everything because I have an understanding of what notes work with what. And that's how I want to be.
You've mentioned notes a lot of times here. And of course, not all perfumes can be mixed together, right?
Correct.
So you need to understand that. So what you said, top note, mid note, bottom note. What do you mean by that?
So top note is the initial boom that you sort of experience, right?
Okay.
Usually this would be more of the fresh or the florals, the notes that would usually last with you for the first hour or so, depending on the fragrance dosage.
So let's take the example of Hava Size, for example.
Okay. Immediately on the top, it's quite, it has a fruity note, which you'd smell initially on the top, and plays around with the different fruits. So there's grapefruit and there's a few other fruits as well. Then in the middle, there's more of a claris sage and a mint. And then in the base, there is, if I'm not mistaken, there's an ambraxan, there's sandalwood to kind of boost the fragrance. Now, the base is something which really holds everything. Like everything, it's the foundation of the fragrance. That's where you build up to. And you use that to build everything. And that's what stays with you the whole time. Even if the building falls down, the foundation remains.
Okay.
And then the heart note is something that would stay with you the longest, and that's what you'd smell throughout the whole day. Base note is something usually when you put that cloth or t-shirt back into the closet, that the next day what you'd smell it, that's the base note. Right. And then there's also another thing that comes into play, even with the spraying aspect of it, is the dosage of the fragrance that you're using. So there's different dosages, right? So there's EDT, EDP, there is elixir, extrait, and all these types as well. So extrait means that it's a very high percentage of fragrance.
How high are we talking about?
Minimum 20%. Okay. Anything above 20% is extrait de parfum.
All right.
Anything between 12 to 20 would be usually EDP, so eau de parfum. And then anything below that would fall under EDT, eau de toilette, or cologne. And that is something that usually you'd find mostly in supermarkets now, but not anymore in stores, because people understand that, you know, they need to have a higher dosage for fragrances to last. So now that customers are more informative about it, all the brands have utilized EDP or extrait de parfum.
If I want a perfume that lasts for 8 hours, say, for example, at least, what quantity should I go for?
Eau de parfum or extrait de parfum. Both of them would, if they're at a good quality fragrance, they would usually last through 8 hours.
And why do companies make EDTs in that case?
So there are multiple reasons. I'll tell you why we had done that once was because we wanted to target a market that was not able to afford our product. So to reduce the cost of a product, we ended up doing that. That's one of the main reasons, but also there's another reason is that some places around the world still don't like fragrances that, like, you know,
that are in your face.
In your face. So having a lower dosage kind of keeps it just to yourself. So it's whispering to you. That's the kind of fragrance people still prefer.
All right, tell me this. We've talked about smaller brands. Let's talk about luxury perfumes now. Say, for example, a perfume. How much is the maximum would a high
average right now for high-end perfumes is around 2,000-3,000 dirhams.
2,000 or 3,000 dirhams. Okay, let's say, for example, a perfume that cost 2,000 dirhams. How much does it take to make it?
Okay, packaging-wise is something which is very brand dependable, but in terms of the fragrance, in a specific bottle, it's definitely not more than 50 to 70 dirhams.
Wow. So the margins are huge here.
100%. But here, you're paying for most of the cases a logo, that whole buying experience, because obviously when you're purchasing a product in I don't know, let's say Dera, compared to when you're purchasing a product in Dubai Mall in a high-end luxury store is different. That whole experience aspect comes into play. And then also it's the packaging and the storytelling and that aspect of it as well.
Okay. Do you like to buy high-end perfumes?
Oh, 100%. I would say in the past 3 months, I've spent so much that I've
How much have you spent in the past 3 months, say, for example?
about 17,000 dirhams.
Bam!
But hey, I can actually say that it's actually for
R&D.
development purposes.
Yeah,
so
I got it.
I can write it off.
That's a great excuse. So does high price mean high quality also?
That's something which I definitely have learned while using it. Not necessarily, no. You have to understand a lot of big brands have given licensing rights out. So they don't really have control over the quality and everything that's coming out as well. So not every big name brand that you see is value for money.
How do you know if a perfume is worth it?
You'll understand from the quality that you're seeing, right? If at Rasasi at 175 dirhams can give you a heavy bottle, a rigid box, a very nice high quality cap, a top performing pump that doesn't go bad, then you definitely don't want to expect that from a perfume that you're paying at 1,000 dirhams, right? And you expect some things to be much better than that. So that's the things you have to look for if it's value for money or not.
So how to know, there are a lot of chemicals used in a perfume bottle, right? So how to know which perfume is safe for use, it's not harmful for you? How do you know that?
That's something which the Middle East is starting to needs to implement really heavily. There's standards of compliances around the world. Mostly it's EU based. So EU compliance is like IFRA compliance, which is very important to be able to use safely on your skin and around you. Similarly, the US has now just implemented it because they've had such a perfume boom now. And that's currently in the implementation process. So all shipments coming in have to have registered products, have to have all these documents submitted, and that's very important. That's where some brands might take a hit because their fragrances do not fall under that IFRA compliance,
Okay.
Especially within the Middle East. And
all your brands fall under that category,
yes,
right?
100%. Yes, because we are also, as I said, right, we're exporting to 95 countries. So it's very important we make sure we fall under the compliances.